Good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started since it's a little after 7. And I just wanted to start off with a poem by Bells Hooks, who is an activist and writer and poet prominent in the 60s and 70s and 80s and up until now, but she recently passed away at the end of last year. This is called Appalachian Eulogy, sections 1 through 6. And I hope people on Zoom can hear us well. If someone wants to give a thumbs up. Thank you, okay. Hear them cry, the long dead, the long gone. Speak to us from beyond the grave, guide us, that we may learn all the ways to hold tender this land, hard clay, direct rock upon rock, charred earth. In time, strong green growth will rise here, trees back to life, native flowers, pushing the fragrance of hope, the promise of resurrection. Such then is beauty surrendered against all hope. You are here again, turning slowly, nature as chameleon. All life change and changing again, awakening hearts, steady moving from unnamed loss into fierce, deep grief that can burden all burdens, even the long passage into a shadowy dark where no light enters. Night moves through the thick dark, a heavy silence outside. Near the front window, a black bear stamps down plants, pushing back brush, fleeing man-made confinement, roaming unfettered, confident. Any place can become home, strutting down a steep hill as though freedom is all in the now, no past, no present. Earth works, thick brown mud, clinging, pulling, a body down, heard wounded earth cry, bequeath to me the hoe, the hope, ancestral rights to turn the ground over, to shovel and sift until history, rewritten, resurrected, returns to its rightful owners, a past to claim, yet another stone lifted to throw against the enemy, making way for new endings, random seeds spreading over the hillside, wild roses, come by fierce wind and hard rain, unleashed furies, here in this touched wood, a dirge, a lamentation for earth to live again, earth that is all at once a grave, a resting place, a bed of new beginnings, avalanche of splendor. Small horses ride me, carry my dreams of prairies and frontiers, where once the first people roamed, claimed union with the earth, no right to own or possess, no sense of territory, all boundaries placed by unseen ones. Here I will give you thunder, shatter your hearts with rain. Let snow soothe you, make your healing water clear, sweet, a sacred spring where the thirsty may drink, animals all. Listen, little sister, angels make their hope here in these hills. Follow me, I will guide you careful now, no trespass. I will guide you word for word, mouth for mouth, all the holy ones embracing us, all our kin making home here. Renegade, marooned, lawless fugitives, grace these mountains. We have earth to bind us. The covenant between us can never be broken. Vows to live and let live.
Thank you, Luke, and welcome, friends. Welcome to Congregation Beth Evergreen and Congregation Beth Everywhere. Welcome to everyone on Zoom, and with your permission, we will collectively gather. This occasion is an attempt to create a new institution, to create a national recognition of the need to seek collective atonement as a community, as a nation. And why we're doing it, I think, can be summed up in the words of two prophets of the last century, Martin Luther King Jr. and Abraham Joshua Heschel, who marched together. And Martin Luther King spoke and said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to injustice everywhere. For we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." And in the wake of the Holocaust, Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel said that we may not all be liable for the travesty and the desecration of life, but we are all responsible. We may not all be liable, but we are all responsible. So tonight, we gather to take and shoulder that responsibility. The responsibility to address and redress a culture which is perpetuating racism and racial injustice in our country. And we're doing that here in this place, which we want to acknowledge has not always been overseen by Europeans who landed here and migrated here, but this land was acknowledged. We acknowledge that we are congregating on land that was cultivated and continues to be stewarded by the people of the Ute and Arapaho and Cheyenne nations and tribes. And may we learn from them and honor that history. And we're doing this now on this 10th day of January in the year 2022, drawing upon the Jewish ritual of after the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah, where we recognize and celebrate the individuality, the birth of each human being and the value of each soul. 10 days later, on the 10th day of Tishrei in Jewish tradition, we come together in a full day of fasting and prayer for a day of atonement, or in Hebrew, kapara, of seeking to, first taking responsibility for our collective transgressions rather than individual confessions. We look at the group's responsibility for one another's errors and for injustices anywhere. And so that's the inspiration behind choosing this 10th day of January, 10 days after the first day of the Gregorian New Year. And it also happens to come between January 6th, which is now embedded in our national memory, and Martin Luther King Day, which will be next week, a week from today. So I hope you will join me in the task of shouldering this responsibility, a weighty responsibility, but less weighty when we engage it together. And the way this evening will work is to organize the work of atonement in 4 stages or in 4 parts. And each part you can remember with the letter R is how I remember that. So in the first part, we're going to ask Scott Levin from the ADL to speak to us and help us recognize the injustices in America, especially the racial injustice that has become more and more present for us since the murder of George Floyd. And then the second section, we will try to experience the regret that we must feel, as we collectively take responsibility. And then third, we're going to harness that regret, those emotions of pain and loss, into resolution to be resolved towards action. So choosing an intention and an attitude to bring into the world with action. And that brings us to the fourth part, is reparation or repair. Doing with our hands and with our collective energy the work that's required to right these wrongs in our world. So Scott Levin, the regional director, the director of the Regional Mountain States Anti-Defamation League, will kick us off this evening. And Scott, thank you for being with us on Zoom, and we welcome your presence and your words.
Thank you, Rabbi. It is truly a privilege to be here and share this evening with you on this just incredible endeavor. As I think about recognizing what the issues are, I come from my own heritage and my own religious faith. As a Jew, I know that our long history is somewhat of our making. Some might say ordained by the Lord, but some of it was history that was foisted upon us. And so it's important for us, I think, to look at the history of other people. And how crazy was it that for some people, it took the awful reckoning of what happened to George Floyd, what happened to Trayvon Martin, what happened to Elijah McClain, and to so many other people, to bring it to our presence, something that people of color have lived with for forever. And we, the privileged amongst the community, have to recognize what its importance was. You know, a lot of these cases, especially as we see these trials that are coming to bear, and thank goodness in many of them, the most recent, the Ahmaud Arbery case, where justice is being recognized. It will never be completely served, but at least the institutions of justice are acting. I think back to the fact that when George Floyd was killed, that it was the very same day that Christian Cooper, a Black man, was bird watching in Central Park in New York City. The very same day when someone, Amy Cooper, of no relation, told him to put his dog on a leash as the park rules required. And when they had some words, she called 911 to say that an African-American man had threatened her life. The very same day. And what that points out to me is there are so many injustices that occur each and every day. Those of us that are too privileged just don't recognize. It's not part of our ken, our worldview. And so it's important that we take advantage of this horrible awakening that has occurred, to know what has happened. And of course, the history is apparent in our eyes if we just care to look, of what it means to have come to a country in chains, to have lived through slavery, through Jim Crow, and through all of the systemic issues that have happened since then. And then for some to think that with the snap of a finger, it's just over. Hey, it's been, a long time since the Civil War, since the 13th Amendment, without understanding that those systems have continued on and on and on. We know that if we care to look, for instance, that law enforcement is a product of the post-Civil War era. That doesn't mean that every police officer is biased and prejudiced and racist in what he does, but there are systems that are at play here. We know what education deficiencies have gone on for years and years and years. You can't just snap a finger and make any of this go away. In my work at the Anti-Defamation League, we've been guided by the same mission since 1913, which is not only to fight anti-Semitism, but also to secure justice and fair treatment to all. Because it's a recognition that if we're going to make the world better for any of us, we really need to make it better for all of us. And it's why, for me, my guiding principle has always been from the Pirkei Avot, the ethics of the fathers, where it was said, if I'm not for myself, who will be for me? But if I'm only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? So it's important that we all stand up for ourselves, but we need to stand up for each other. And finally, I just want to drive home the point, as an organization that is very, very involved in educating people about hate crimes, in monitoring hate crimes and collecting data on hate crimes, making sure the police and prosecutors investigate and prosecute hate crimes. We need to recognize that while those hate crimes fall on our community disproportionately amongst all religious communities, that it is nothing compared to the hate crimes that are against people based upon their race and their ancestry and ethnicity. In the United States last year, the FBI measured 8,263 hate crimes. 5,227 of them were based on race and ethnicity, and of that, 2,871 were against Black people and African Americans. In Colorado, the numbers are very similar. There were 281 hate crimes. 182 of those were based on race and ethnicity, 96% against Black and African American people. You know the statistics, you know the percentage of the country. It is way, way out of proportion. It is more than long enough for us to reckon what this issue is. And I just want to thank again Rabbi Arnold for bringing us together, and what an appropriate way to frame this, because there is an atonement that must be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Unfortunately, Melanie Vigil was not able to make it this evening, so I'm going to invite Tai Tinman, representing Compassionate Dharma Cloud Monastery, to lead us in transitioning to regret.
Thank you, Rabbi Jamie, and good brother and sister. So I would like to start out with some meditation. And at this time, I would like to invite our brother and sister in person or on Zoom. So please sit upright and just close your eyes. Feel some sense of relax in your body, in your mind. Collect your body and your mind together. And give rise to some sense of kindness, energies in our body and our mind. And let us collectively share our love, our kindness, our energies of therapeutic to connect all the brother and sister together. And give rise to the energies of love and kindness meditation. Breathing in, may everyone be free from inner and outer harm and danger. Breathing out, may your body be relaxed. Feel the sense of healing, therapeutic in your body and in your mind. Take another breath, breathing in. May everyone be safe and protected with the family, the beloved one, the communities, all the people around them. Allow these energies of safe and protected pervasive in our body, in our mind, in our consciousness, and to all the people that we love, and to all sentient beings that have been suffering because of the pandemic. Breathing in, may everyone be safe. May everyone be free from mental suffering or distresses. Breathing out, may they be healed by energies of interconnected of love and healing. Breathing in, may everyone be happy and joy. Breathing out, may they be safe. Breathing in, may everyone be free from physical pain and suffering. Breathing out, may they be healed. Breathing in, may everyone be healthy and strong. Breathing out, may they be protected and have a good health. Breathing in, may everyone be able to live in this world happily, peacefully, joyfully, with ease. Breathing out, may all the strength, energy be with them in all corners of life. Thank you, brother and sister. May you open your eyes. May these energies of meditation bring us together, heal us, and may all the wounds be transformed.
Are you going to do some teaching now?
Yeah. So that's some of meditation I would like to offer to our brother and sister in person and also on Zoom. I would like to share a little bit on regrets according to the Buddhist teachings. So regret is our past wrongdoing. In Buddhist psychology, that regret can be neutral. It depends into our intentions. By itself, it's not positive, but also at the same time, it's not negative. So it depends on the intention that we put behind that, of the past wrongdoing that we have done through our behavior, action, speech. And regret is a feeling of shame when one knowledge, aspiration, love and kindness and compassion are absent or lacking. And that when we feel regrets of past wrongdoing in Buddhism we call due to attachment, hatred, and ignorance. So through meditation, we're able to calm ourselves and reflect about past wrongdoing through our speech, body, and our mind, action that we have committed due to ignorance, greediness, and hatred, and especially in our society today. And collectively, we can do some things to transform that, to change that, to prepare that. So that's in Buddhism. So when someone violates or commit to violate a precept, for example, so we will allow that person by himself to meditate, so that they can reflect on their remorse. It depends on how the degree of that violation, so we can allow them back to the community, especially in the monastic setting. So that's why we have training, 5 mindfulness training, all of that. And once we violate that, and as human, we all make errors. So we allow that opportunity for them to meditate and reflect and to get better. Not to condemn, but allow that person to self-reflect. And after a certain time, and they can become, we call repentance, or beginning anew, to refresh the energies and allow them time, certain months. So slowly they get back into the community and join the community and seize and the one have the responsibility to oversee that, and then slowly that person can regain their practice and come back to communities and to offer service. So regret or past wrongdoing is something that we can learn in Buddhism, and something that we can change. It's not like inherent or sin. It's a behavior that caused through our ignorance of the wrongdoing, and we allow people a chance to make them to renew themselves, to make themselves as a learning lesson. So we have a committee that will come together. We call senior monks, that those people those senior that have been practiced long in community, and they have reputation, they are example for the community, and they sit together and they shine light on that regret, and we call beginning new, and then so that person, and then they shine light based on compassion and love, not just on condemn of that whatever that person have their past wrongdoing, and over time, if that person. So for example, I'll give you one story before I end. Like one time there is still a thief that sneak into a middle of the night into the temple, try to steal some donation from the temple, and the night was dark. So, and then they have the light, and the light all about to burn out, out oil, and he tried to make that light and lit it up so he can see the donation box to get the money from the donation box from the devotee. And he looked up and he see the Buddha, big statue, and the Buddha smiled at him, and he will feel remorse. He say, "Why the Buddha smiled at me? I'm still in the donation." And he feel regret. And then he didn't steal, he didn't get the money. And because of that cause, he feel the repentance, the cause and effect. And he been practiced over many lifetimes. And one lifetime he become the student of the Buddha. And he become one of the most supernatural vision because of that regret. This is true story during the Buddha time. And I read that story and say the Buddha smiled at him, and that smile changed him. Smile of compassion. The Buddha say, "What are you doing here?" He's smiling. But he feel that energy. I say, "Why all this money It's hard work from the devotee. And the Buddha never yelled at me, but he smiled. And from that time, God many lifetimes, he continued to practice, to repent, and to begin anew, refresh himself. And one lifetime, he became one of the best students of the Buddha. And today is the day of the Buddha Enlightenment. December 8th in lunar calendar. Today. Tonight is the night he got enlightened. Under the Buddha tree. It's special. So it's not coincidence. I didn't know that until I sit there and I was here, Rabbi Jamie talked about, and I remember. Because yesterday I do a ceremony on Sunday for Enlightened Day of the Buddha, because on Sunday service. But today is the day that he got enlightened. So when we get enlightened, we change ourselves. We change our remorse from that. Become a better practitioner. So tonight, in that spirit of energy, of meditation, of love and kindness, a smile from the Buddha, and a smile to you all. And may you all be enlightened. From your regrets, from your remorse. We all make mistakes. Don't worry. But the Buddha will smile, Jesus smiles at you. We change ourselves. And we make that aspiration to change our past wrongdoing. You all have some past wrongdoing. But is that okay? In you have the energy to be enlightened yourself. When you feel truly regret, honestly, genuine regret in your heart, you make the step to walk forward to the path and to the light and rid yourself from that remorse. So once again, thank you, our brothers and sisters, in person and on Zoom. May we all be safe and enlightened one day. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for turning on the light. According to biblical tradition, regret is the first human emotion described when Adam and Eve, Adam and Chava, eat from the forbidden fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. They feel regret. It's translated ashamed usually, but that's on a spectrum. We say remorse. We can transform it. I wasn't expecting to go to a prayerful service when I went to an Avett Brothers concert at Red Rocks this summer, but that's what happened. I grew up with reverence for the red, white, and blue. Spoke of God and liberty, reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. And I learned love of country from my own family. Some shivered and prayed, approaching the beaches of Normandy. And the flag waves high, and that's how it should be. So many lives given and taken in the name of freedom. But the story's complicated and hard to read. Pages of the book obscured or torn out completely. I am a son of Uncle Sam, and I struggle to understand the good and evil. But I'm doing the best I can
unmapped race. Laws may change, but we can't erase the scars of a nation. Of children devalued and disavowed, displaced by greed and the arrogance of manifest destiny. Short-sighted to say it was a long time ago. Not even 2 lifetimes have passed since the days of Lincoln. The sins of Andrew Jackson and the shame of Jim Crow. The time moves slow and the tragedies are beyond description. Ooh, I am a son of Uncle Sam, and I struggle to understand the good and evil. But I'm doing the best I can in a place built on stolen land with stolen people. We are more than the sum of our parts. Oh, these broken homes and broken hearts. God, will you keep us wherever we go? Will you forgive us for where we've been? We Americans have been to every state and seen shore to shore the still open wounds of the Civil War. Watch blind hatred bounce back and forth, seen vile prejudice both in the South and the North.
And accountability is hard to impose on the ghosts of ancestors haunting the halls of our conscience. But the path of grace and goodwill is still here for those of us who may be considered among the living. We are a child of God and man, and I may never understand the good and evil, but I dearly love this land, and because of and in spite of we the people, we are more than the sum of our parts. All these broken bones and broken hearts. God, will you keep us wherever we go? Can you forgive us where we've been? We Americans. We Americans. We've got love in our hearts with the pain and the memory. Love in our hearts with the pain and the memory. Love in our hearts with the pain and the memory. Love, 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 love in our hearts with the pain and the memory. Love in our hearts with the pain and the memory. Love in our hearts with the pain and the memory. Love, 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 love. Love in our hearts with the pain and the memory. Love in our hearts with the pain and the memory. Love in our hearts with the pain and the memory. Pastor Martin.
Our mutual host, Rabbi and Beth Evergreen, it's wonderful to be here, and to our distinguished guest speakers that are gathered in place, and of course those that are online. I just appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening and just to share just a little bit. I sort of got lost and want to thank you for the meditation prayer, because it helped me. Anytime you have to think in terms of social injustice, racial injustice, you have to make sure that you don't go to this dark place called anger. And many times you have to wrestle with your emotions because your psychology can take you to a dangerous place and you don't know how long you're going to be there. And so I needed that trip to be a very short one. And the meditation prayer helped me to make that a short trip within the realm of anger. This concept called resolution, I must couch that statement resolution with just a little bit of a reading from a document called the Emancipation Proclamation. It's just this little small space within the proclamation, Emancipation Proclamation from 1863. And it simply says that on the first day of January, in the year of our Lord, 1863, all persons held as slaves within any state or designated part of a state, the people whereof shall then be in rebellion against the United States, shall be then thenceforward and forever free, and the executive government of the United States, including the military, naval authority thereof, will recognize and maintain the freedom of such persons, and will do no act to repress such persons or any of them in an effort to make for their actual freedom. What President Lincoln did was take resolution and reparations and tried to put them both together. What actually happened was that because he was the president of these United States, he could make a proclamation and not have to wander into the place called resolution. We are not the president of these United States. And so we can't make the proclamation. What we have to do is be it resolved. And that place called be it resolved, the qualifying factor is there any teeth in be it resolved? In that arena called resolution, which many times becomes a great idea, what becomes then the enforceability? I am a student and a fan of Robert's Rules of Order. Be it resolved that on this day, we will no longer need 2/3 vote, we just need one greater than 50%. The challenge then becomes, how do we get to the place of mutual and agreeable resolve? Oftentimes, in the equity work that I do within some of the school systems, the statement is made that I didn't own slaves. I didn't own slaves. And so how or why should I feel a certain way? I didn't own slaves. Well, my qualifying statement is always, I'm not a slave, but I'm still suffering some repercussions of my ancestors who were slaves. And the benefit of white privilege simply says, you don't own slaves, but you still benefit from white privilege. And so how do we resolve to take me not being a slave and you not owning slaves and figure out how do we ever move forward? This place of racial injustice that we're stuck in really comes from institutionalized racism. Systems and systems and systems that bring us to this very uncomfortable place, which now presents itself as a conversation. So how do we have these hard conversations? Well, we have these hard conversations by having hard conversations. The glue to it is that all of us, at some point in time, have had injustice. Doesn't have to be racial, it can be social. It can be gender, ethnicity, disqualified from moving into certain neighborhoods because of the color of your skin, denied equal pay because of your gender. It's interesting to note that all of us, if you just sit down and think for a moment, that all of us have been treated different than what we wanted to be treated. Take an 18-year-old African-American young man driving in his father's Ford LTD and getting stopped at 8th and Lafayette Street. My brothers and my sister in the car together, and we get stopped at 8th and Lafayette, borderline Cherry Creek and the Capitol Hill area. We get stopped. My speed was good. I know my father always checked, so I knew there wasn't a tail light out. I knew we were good. And we were stopped, and the police officer did not ask me for my driver's license. He asked me, "Where are you going?" And of course, being the brash young man that I was, I said, "Sir, I don't understand the question." He said, "Where are you going?" I said, "Sir, I don't understand the question." He said, "Where are you going?" I said, "Sir, I'm going home." He then said, "Where do you live?" I said, "Well, we live on 5th and Lafayette." And he said, "Well, we had heard a report that a car that looked like the car you're driving had been involved in a burglary a few blocks down the way." I said, "Sir, I hope you catch those who burglarized. I'm on my way home." But here becomes the resolve. I am 61 years old, and I am still not resolved that that was okay. What I cannot do is go back and find those police officers and find out if we can sit down and have a courageous conversation of why they thought it was okay to stop a young group of African American young men and women in a car because they felt we were in the wrong neighborhood. Psychology says that you have to be able to forgive and forget. Maybe that's the Bible. The challenge now is, how do we sit down and two forces, and I walk in agreement, not from the perspective of right and wrong, not right and wrong, but from the perspective of how do we move forward? Because if we continue to figure out how to cast blame in a different way, we never fix the problem and move forward. We just continue the same cycle of what has produced this moment, this time, and this hour. So maybe the place that we have to all arrive at is, be it resolved, we all commit to do better. Thank you for this time. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Yes. All right. Even with my mask on, you can still hear me well. Good. I am so honored to be here tonight, to be here with all of you in the room and those of you on Zoom, and to be participating in this Day of Atonement. For me, when I think of what this means, I first think of it that it's a verb, that it's about action. It's about action, not about the past, so much as about the present. It's about what we are doing today. And that there's so much that goes into how we feel about right now, and what we choose to do, what we resolve to do, right? Because we do have regrets. We do feel remorse. Sometimes we feel shame, because we're all human, and we all know that we have fallen short. So there's some things that come to mind when I ponder upon this idea of atonement. One of the first things that comes to mind for me is truthfulness. In the Buddha faith tradition, it says that truthfulness is the foundation of all human virtues. And there are times when people feel shirk from the truth because it is hard. Because the truth sometimes makes us feel regret, makes us feel remorse, makes us feel shame, makes us feel confused about what we should do about that feeling. But if we don't embrace the truth, we can never move forward. If we don't understand our past, we don't understand how we came to be right now. And the most important thing is never the past. It is today. It is this moment and what we do tomorrow. What we resolve to do to make ourselves better. What we resolve to do to change this world for the better. It is that embrace of truth that must be the foundation for any atonement and any transformation that is to occur. That truthfulness. Another thing I ponder a lot upon when it comes to atonement is justice. Because again, in the Baha'i faith tradition, it tells us that the best beloved of all things in God's sight is justice. And that was a surprise to me as a child when I first read that and came upon that. Justice, the best beloved of all things in God's sight. For me, when I ponder upon that, I'm a parent now. And I think of our Creator who loves all of us. We're the creation of the divine. And the Creator, like a parent, wants the best for us. As a parent, I know many of you are parents, you have both sons and daughters, you want the best for them. The Creator feels the same way about us. And when there is injustice, when there's oppression and tyranny, that retards the growth of that individual who suffers in that way. It also retards the growth of the person who perpetuates that injustice, that tyranny, that oppression. So we must resolve to understand how we came to be. We must resolve to understand the forces that create the worlds in which we find ourselves, because none of us are responsible for this world, that in the way it was created, but we are all part of it. And as such, endemic to being a part of the world is a responsibility to engage in the world in such a way to bring light to the world. To engage in the world in such a way to increase love and connection and peace and unity amongst all the peoples in this world. That is our responsibility because that stems from our own hearts, from our own souls and our own spirits. We know it feels good when we feel that connection with other human beings, that connection that uplifts us, helps us feel wanted and connected. We know it feels good when we feel that people care about our well-being, when people show they care about us and are there for us. And we know it feels good when we can do the same for others. This is the beauty of the creation, of God's creation, is that we understand in our hearts and our spirits when we reflect, when we meditate, when we pray, that there is this thing calling us to be better, to fulfill the reality of who we are meant to be. We're not called upon to be stones on the ground. We're called upon to be spirits that soar in the heavens. We're called upon to be those who lend a helping hand, who listen for an attentive ear, who care about each other. And to do so in this world and this context of atonement, we're looking at the racial injustice that has been part of American history since its inception. We have to think about what role can we play to make it better. And a big part of that is understanding that it is in actions that we take, that we all can take actions every day to actually heal each other, to lift each other up. And as we engage on this journey, we must always remember that we are in it together. We cannot attain justice or atonement by ourselves. It is a collective endeavor we are engaged in. We are a nation. We are a people. We are children of the divine. And it's only together that we can overcome these obstacles. And so as I think about, and I've dedicated my life to striving to be a champion of justice, I always have to remember, who am I going to walk beside? Who am I going to lend a hand to? Because others have lent a hand to me many times along my path. We can never think we can go on this journey alone. We can never think it's just about us. Justice is never just about us. It is about all of us. And so I charge us all to resolve to always remember, who else can we bring along? Who else can we seek to uplift? Who else can we listen to for the wisdom that they have to share with us? And in that spirit, I want to share a poem tonight that I wrote called Red Canaan, about this process of thinking about racial injustice and thinking about more than ourselves along the path. Red Canaan. Out of a longing deep and resounding, my people arose to kill Jim Crow. We plotted and pleaded, knifed and gunned him, then to the depths of hell we saw him flow. But evil he represented never left for a moment, nor did the freedom we asserted ever blossom to fruition. We forgot something, someone, a brother, a sister, a mother, a father, someone whose pleading cries told tales of long suffering and tales of lies, told 1,000,000 times over and over. An anguish more potent than the sun, more dead than Jim Crow, more alive than the night sky, more real than the time to die. A people who lived and breathed a millennia or 3 before our ancestors ever had to dream about being free. A people who loved of kindness, gave teachings and guidance, gave food and lore to the murderers at the door. The pilgrims who killed them with gifts of liquor and blankets, gave thanks for the giving and said blessings for the presents, stuff with smallpox and disease. Human genocide did with ease. No fighting or burning, no killing or starving, that would come later for these terrible thieves. Taken from their family and taken from their land, schooled in a foreign tongue and religion, enough to drive anyone mad. Taught to hate themselves and their brethren, that their faith is ignorant superstition. They died and they dwindled. It seems they are forgotten. But they are here today, dwindled and pale, their cries, echoes of our ancestors, the slaves. The indigenous man was here all along. And if for justice we shout, yet forget him, then may our tongues fall out. For their struggle is ours, our battle theirs. Justice ain't just about us, but includes all of Adam's heirs. The civil rights movement had some successes, but we're still waiting today for true freedom's graces. Freedom without justice, what a bitter pill to swallow. Civil or human rights, shall we wade deep or shallow? The struggle for justice can never be won unless the circle of unity loops around everyone. The struggle is not just for you, it is not just for me. It's a passion for justice, peace, and unity. When we fight for the rights of others than ourselves, only then do we do justice and overcome our own selves. For justice isn't selfish, nor is the Creator divisive. When we champion all God's children, then to our prayers He will listen. As a black man proud, the struggle for me goes on to fight for the rights of all children of all tones. We cannot forget. We cannot have amnesia. We can't ignore the cries or blind our shame-filled eyes. Others than us have suffered. Others than us feel pain. And until we help heal their wounds, then God Almighty will hear our prayers. Thank you.
Be it resolved. Thank you. We're going to pull up on the screen, right, Luke? You're able to pull up on the screen? And invite you to join us, to join together in declaring some resolutions, an alphabet of resolutions. Please join me. We, here today, in the spirit of community, as citizens of this nation and the earth, stand together on this 10th day of January 2022, calling upon all citizens to join us in seeking collective atonement for transgressions of the past, intentional and unintentional. And we hereby resolve to acknowledge injustice and act with compassion, bring open minds and brave hearts to difficult conversations, condemn injustice and create collaborative countermeasures, disrupt systems of oppression with our diversity, elevate equality and expand emancipation for all, foster freedom and forgiveness, grow grateful hearts and generous hands, honor hopes and fears, and create safe harbors of healing, identify implicit bias, and imagine institutional transformation. Join together joyfully in the pursuit of justice. Kneel humbly in the face of the unknown. Love thy neighbor by listening, learning, and leading. Move mindfully through shared spaces. Nurture respect when navigating nuance. Organize on behalf of others. Promote pluralistic points of view and perspectives. Question assumptions. Quiet reactivity and inequity. Recognize, regret, and repair the recurring injustices of systemic racism. Stand strong together in service. Trust in the transformative truths of others' stories. Uphold the underlying tenets of these United States. Value diverse voices and envision the victory of virtue. Work wholeheartedly, weaving wisdom and wonder. Experience this world. Yearn for more. Zero in on love. Kathy and Millie.
Good evening. And we're going to share a prayer for world peace by Dr. Ernest Holmes. I know that there is but one mind, which is the mind of God, in which all people live and move and have their being. I know there is a divine pattern for humanity, and within this pattern, there is infinite harmony and peace, cooperation, unity, and mutual helpfulness. I know that the mind of each person, being one with the mind of God, shall discover the method, the way, and the means best fitted to permit the flow of divine love between individuals and nations. I know there shall be a free interchange of ideas, of cultures, of spiritual concepts, of ethnics, of educational systems, and scientific discoveries. For all good belongs to all alike.
I know that because the divine mind has created us all, we are bound together in one infinite and perfect unity. In bringing about world peace, I know that all people and all nations will remain individual but unified for the common purpose of promoting peace, happiness, harmony, and prosperity. I know that deep within every person, the divine pattern of perfect peace is already implanted. I now declare that in each person and in leaders of thought everywhere, this divine pattern moves into action and form to the end that all nations and all people shall live together in peace, harmony, and prosperity forever. And so it is. And so with this, we would like to ask for a call to action from each of you, from everyone here, from those on Zoom. What would be your call to action? I would like to start off by saying that my call to action would be this, that we are living in a diverse community, being this world. We're living a diverse community that practices equality, equity, and inclusion for all. Not just some people, not just those who are white or, someone that seems like they're, people think they're more important, but I really would call this into being. This is something that we can do together. And when it comes time, or when we see that these are being practiced, racial injustice and equality, and people who are excluded, what can we do about it to stop it in its tracks? This is a part of reparations. It's to start where we are, as has already been said, and just move beyond this into our greater yet to be, to make this world a place that works for everyone. Reverend Kathy, would you like to add anything to that?
I think that was beautiful. And it's really recognizing the oneness. It's really rising up beyond appearances and really seeing each other's hearts. And when we can go to that place of heart and of love, there's that statement of namaste. The divine in me recognizes and honors the divine in you. And gosh, when we can live from that place and we can give ourselves that love, we can actually be more loving to ourselves and for the world as a whole. And there really will be peace on earth, and just recognizing and realizing that peace. And so we're also looking for those online, if you would like to share your ideas. How can we together, we've come together today for something so important. I'm so grateful for Rabbi Jamie for bringing this from his beautiful heart. What are your ideas? What are your ideas? Let's co-create right now something really powerful that we can bring to the world. Yeah,
Lovely.
If I can just sneak in here real quick.
you bet.
The hashtag me movement, along with the identity that women are great and that men are not inferior, but sometimes mistaken, and that active equity does not become a seasonal occurrence, but that it becomes a permanent reality. Active equity.
Amen.
Do not let it slip into that sphere, that place called where we're better now. And so we can go back to way things used to be, but let's celebrate active equity to be a part of our culture and community and not just a passing fad. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Reverend Dr. Raymond Anderson has shared, get to know those beyond our comfortable communities. I think that's beautiful. There's Carolyn.
And Carolyn Hone, let's march in the parade in Denver in 2023 under an evergreen banner. Oh. What can we do in 2022?
And James Stalkup says, I am a stand to heal patriarchy.
Reverend Dr. Amant, engage in more conversations with those who are not like us.
And oh,
It
here they
moved.
come. Here they come. Yeehaw. And Scott, I think it's Scott Levin, I think he's one who spoke earlier, said, be an ally and stand up for others and to others.
Carolyn Hone, sorry, COVID is keeping me away this year. I get it, me too.
Is there anyone in the room who has something that they would like to share?
Notice what makes us consider someone less than human and take a moment to question that part of ourselves.
Thank you.
Love it.
So soon here I will think of like active, as you say, and I call it active compassion. And especially we can start with our family. Because due to COVID, and sometimes we feel separate, even though we are together, but we feel separate. And especially something that realistic is start in our family. Sometimes we have a lot of dilemma in our family. So I think if we can start that active compassion and active inclusiveness in our family, and that's something that we can do. So we can, and then when we have that energies and that spirit in our family, then we can move it, pass it on to people around us. So that I was thinking active compassion in our family and inclusive during the time of pandemic.
Thank you.
Speak compassionate truth. We live in a time where I feel truth is under fire, and there's a lot of lies and disinformation out there, and it's important that we speak the truth, but it's important to speak it compassionately, because we all fall short, and so we have to speak up the truth to shed that light, but we don't want to do so in a way that creates more hate, more turmoil, more anger, more angst. So I would just say speak truth compassionately.
Thank you. Beautiful. And we have Mary Pat DeWald. Listen, think, act with love for one another. Thank you.
Carolyn Nadelhofer, listen to one another carefully and wholeheartedly with love.
And Dr. Raymond. Understand faith is a verb. I love that. And therefore, the time to actively engage in the healing of all discord, sexism, homophobia, classism, racism, etc. Faith is a verb.
I love that. Oops. Anyone else in the room? Oh, wait, here's one. Carolyn Hone. Find a way to encourage our BIPOC, I know that rings for something, but BIPOC, Evergreen, Black, Indigenous people of color, Evergreen residents to be more involved in our community, be a part of the leadership of our community.
Anyone else in here? Another
Just to shine a light on parts of ourselves where we're judging ourselves, and also be active. Don't stop there, but recognize that it can be challenging to accept others or feel unified if we're not feeling unified within ourselves.
That's a great point. Thank you.
And that's the last one.
And then there's one more. Oh, Joyce. Hi, Reverend Joyce. Connect with those representatives and senators who seem to be on the other side and seem to be intent on holding up the good works. Speak to them compassionately. Blessings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaking of thank you, some thank yous to offer for this gathering. Thank you for all of you who devoted your evening to gather together. Thank you to the Evergreen Interfaith Group that helped rally with me to pull this event together. The Evergreen Interfaith Group had traditionally done interfaith or multi-faith Thanksgiving services and occasionally Martin Luther King Day services, and hadn't met for a couple years, and around this project really came together. And thank you, Duncan Miller, Reverend Duncan Miller, too, for helping to reorganize and sustain that group. Thank you to Luke Colicello, who's been working with me through this and also helped compose with me the resolutions. And all of the participants and the communities that they represent. So we have representation from Congregation Beth Evergreen, from the ADL, Anti-Defamation League, the Compassionate Dharma Cloud Buddhist Monastery, the Zion Temple Pentecostal Church, the Baha'i community here in Evergreen, and Centers for Spiritual Living, as well as the Methodist Church we have represented, the United Methodist Church of Evergreen. Anyone else from another congregation or community? Mile High Church, wonderful, yeah.
Would Beyond Words count as in movement?
Beyond Words.
Beyond Words movement?
Beyond Words movement.
We have Denver.
Wonderful. And thank you to Elizabeth Moore for helping put together the slideshow and the like. Our aim is to rally, speaking to Congress people and senators, to make this an annual occasion, gathering, and to grow our numbers and to grow our influence, and to make this ripple effect. So here we've thrown the pebble into the pond, and may the ripples continue to spread far and wide of what we can do as a community, small but mighty. And I think I'll invite you to close with me with the melody. It's a Hebrew word, but I think one that you all know, and it goes like this: Amen, 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 Amen. Try it. Amen, 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 Amen. I affirm. Amen, 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 Amen. Amen, amen. 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 Amen, amen, amen. Amen. Thank you. Thank you again, friends on Zoom. Wonderful to see some new faces and names. Please stay connected and help us plan for next year, if not sooner. Blessings.
Do this at my church.